I didn't have anybody there to really like my mom was working all the time, so she was barely home, and so we had to take on that responsibility of getting up, getting dressed, going to school, and so I wasn't doing that well because I didn't have both figures in my home. And as a child, as a young child, this is when I first started to feel it, and I didn't even notice at the time, but it was affecting me in school. It was affecting me physically, and like honestly, I was a bad kid, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the most disciplined kid. Of course, I always respected my mom, but I was always doing something dumb. How now young kids are exposed to mental health and having a safe space. The way I grew up, that was never a thing. I never even knew that existed. So outwardly, the only way I knew how to get my dad's attention or to get the attention of an adult who's supposed to care is by acting out badly, which is a negative result. But I think that's the reason why mental health is so needed for the younger generation, because if we know these steps and we know the flaws in the steps that were made, now we can make those adjustments so that the younger generation behind us can be better.
Hey, welcome to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm excited you're here. And if you're listening for the first time or you're back for another great episode, thank you for joining us. I want to start by letting you know that your stories and what you may be going through, they matter. And you're not alone. So try not to worry about what chapter you're in, because if you trust God with your story, He's going to breathe life back into it. So sit back with this community, your community that cares about you and hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in men's real stories. So before we get started, do me a quick favor. Do something for me. Let me know you've been here by clicking that thumbs up in the lower corner. That's your way of showing me your love for these conversations that we have here. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, go ahead and click it now. This won't be the last conversation you want to enjoy, so do that for yourself. So now that's out of the way, thank you for your support, and know that this podcast is nothing without you and the men who God has put it on their hearts to saying yes to joining me. Like today's special guest, whose courage to speak up about his journey and the importance of his voice amongst his generation is so important. He's equipping the youth as well as grown men like me with a better understanding of how our past shouldn't dictate what's expected in our future by the community we choose today. So I'm excited. You should be excited to welcome our brother, Rip Cornish, to the episode.
What's going on? I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, bro. It's a pleasure, man. And it's not always that I meet a brother and then within a few weeks or I don't even know how long it's been since we initially met or since we initially connected
like
from the conference. Yeah. So just to cover that real quick, we were at a conference together, a mental wellness conference.
Yeah.
And I remember you standing up and you got an opportunity to stand up and just share with a lot of people who had come out to that conference. And I'm not sure. I mean, like we had well over 150 or more people at that conference. I don't know what the numbers were, but we had a packed house and you spoke. And there was a moment where I was like, I've got to get that brother on my podcast. Like he's got a word and others need to hear it. And so I'm just excited to have you here, bro. So let's just jump right in. Who is Rip Cornish?
So originally I am from a small town called Cambridge, Maryland. It's about 3 hours away from where I am now, which is the University of Maryland. It's on the Eastern Shore, small town. Growing up, I was in a predominantly black place, but it was more divided. But I was predominantly surrounded by black people. And growing up, honestly, from where I was, it was hard because I was raised by a single mother. And being raised by a single mother, it was difficult because there were times when my father was in my life and then times when he wasn't. So from that standpoint,
so hold on, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So tell me this: were you raised only by your mother? Was it just you? You have any siblings?
I do. I have 5 siblings, but I only lived with my older sister. Yeah.
Okay. 5 siblings, but you only live with your older sister?
Yeah, my second oldest sister.
Okay. So I guess you would say that you were the baby of the home.
I am.
Okay. All right. Okay. Very cool. Okay.
So yeah, I was raised by a single mom, and honestly, it was hard as being the only male in the household because there were times when my dad would be there, and then times when he wouldn't be there. And so for that exact reason, there were things that I had to learn on my own, and often some of the things I got wrong because I had to learn them on my own. Like for example, the only vivid things there are only two vivid things that I can remember him teaching me that I took to heart and and it never left because he didn't really teach me a lot. I remember this
Okay.
and this is just random, but I remember I was getting up for school and he was already up and I was like ironing my clothes on and he was like, "Here, son, this is how you do it." And to this day I still remember that. And then I remember this one time I had left my wallet on the couch or something, and I was going to leave it. He said, "A man never leaves without his wallet." And I was like, "Bruh, this is what I've been looking for my whole life, bro. Like what is that? Like, you know what I mean?" And then,
Yeah.
that's
Hey,
how I
look, okay,
grew up.
hold up. I gotta say this. Like the
Yeah,
crazy thing about it is just the fact that you still have memories of those two things, which
yeah,
were so important. Like from the fact of like I see an importance in my clothes being ironed before I leave out the house, or the importance of like that pat down we do to make sure we got everything. Okay, wait,
yeah,
wallet, phone, all right, we good. But like I know that as a man who's never had somebody say like, "Hey, look, a man always keeps up with his wallet," and having those moments where like my heart dropped because I didn't have my wallet, bro. Like I guess those memories of just like your dad instilling that in your life and saying how important that is. I guess that was major. That
yeah.
was major.
And
Yeah,
now I
yeah,
got my
yeah, yeah.
wallet on me, so I never leave without it. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's how I grew up.
Super
And
cool.
honestly, it was hard in school, in elementary school primarily, because I didn't have anybody there to really like my mom was working all the time, so she was barely home, and so we had to take on that responsibility of getting up, getting dressed, going to school, and so I wasn't doing that well because I didn't have both figures in my home. And as a child, as a young child, this is when I first started to feel it, and I didn't even notice at the time, but it was affecting me in school. It was affecting me physically, and like honestly, I was a bad kid, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the most disciplined kid. You know, of course I always respected my mom, but I was always doing something dumb or something like that. And even in school and out of school, I wasn't aware that I was doing that because I was missing the absence of my father. Like I was missing his presence. And so going into
Okay, so
yeah,
do you feel like you had a space to even verbalize to anyone that there was almost like you had a yearning for like your dad's presence? You remembered those moments, but his lack of presence made it to where you felt like the best way you could get the attention you needed was through your actions in a lot of ways.
yeah, because it's even like how now young kids are exposed to mental health and having a safe space. The way I grew up, that was never a thing. I never even knew that existed. So outwardly, the only way I knew how to get my dad's attention or to get the attention of an adult who's supposed to care is by acting out badly, which is a negative result. But I think that's the reason why mental health is so needed for the younger generation, because if we know these steps and we know the flaws in the steps that were made, now we can make those adjustments so that the younger generation behind us can be better.
I mean, not only the younger generation behind you, but
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also a responsibility of the generation before you that may not understand that I am doing my best in you being missing. And I would like to verbalize the fact that I miss you and need you, but because you're not here, how that feels is showcased through my actions, through the negative actions that a lot of people will recognize and will begin to label me as a bad kid, as just somebody who's not good for the environment or whatever, not good for this school. You know, hey, look,
Yeah.
man, like, see, he's such a bad kid, but they don't fully understand his story. And I feel like your story may bring almost like a shine a light on the fact of like every kid's not bad. Matter of fact, most kids aren't bad, but a lot of kids don't know how to verbalize how they feel. So go ahead.
Exactly.
I think this is great.
Yeah. And I mean, I can remember times where I would call and it would be months, and then I would have to call him, and it would just and that would just always be the thing. And even now, um it would always be me chasing that validation of having this male role model in my life. So it was always kind of that struggle of having him in and out of my life, through elementary school. Then once I got to about seventh grade and middle school is when our relationship started to like blossom. He lived right around the corner. You know what I mean? I started going over there almost every single week, every week. My brother lived with him, so that was great, and we started to foster this true bond. And I started to learn more about him. I was like this is my like hero, bro, and I'm really like a part of him. You know what I mean? He's a part of
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And so from that point on, I was like, wow, it feels good to have a father in my life. And then
Okay, so
I
hold
got
on,
it.
hold on, hold
Yeah,
on. So let me just jump in here.
yeah.
So in gaining that father figure back in your life, do
Hmm.
you feel like um that helped when it came to like just how you showed up in other spaces, whether it be in school, whether it be just in your community? Do you feel like as you begin to grow closer to your father, it kind of like healed a wound that was there of a missingness between you and him?
I'm glad you asked that question because the year that we started to build that bond was the same year that I got straight A's for the first time in school.
Come on, man.
The
Come
same
on.
year.
You can't, that's crazy because you can't even argue with that of like some people could say, "Oh, well, he just got it back on the road." But I
Hmm.
think there and I know there's something to the fact of like that missingness, that void that was there. It caused you not to be able to focus on what your job was as a student, but
Yes.
it made you focus on what was missing as a student.
Hmm.
So no, man, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. Attitude improved, grades improved, like the way I was acting towards people, it all improved because now I had somebody to look at as an example, you know, and
Mm.
big thing.
Do you feel like
So
your dad was a great example? Do you feel like his presence, what he demonstrated, what he showcased to you while you were in his presence, while you were around him and your brother? Do you feel like it was a great example of who you wanted to be?
yes, for sure, that was the man I looked up to. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And my mom said something so like that touched me so much. She was like, other people may say things about your father, but who he is to you is what matters the most. Like everybody is different pertaining to like who they're in like relation with, but who they are to you is what matters, and that's what you
Mm.
focus on, and that's what I carry
That's
with me because it's
good.
like
Sheesh.
yeah,
Come on, man. Shout out her. Okay. So like
yeah.
hold on.
I'm
Like
trying to tell
like
you,
and
man.
you know what? Yeah, like I want to just shout out her right now because I recognize that even in that was so profound that she recognized that his relationship with you was what mattered. She could have in a way stepped in and said, "Well, hey, look, I don't expect his relationship to be any better with you if it's no good with me."
Hmm.
And I think in a lot of the circles, um we experience the relationship that our parents had with each other over the relationship they had with us. So that lack of a father in our life sometimes is explained through our mother's hurt, through our mother's, I guess, explanation of like, hey, look, don't expect him to be any better to you. He was never any good to me. Don't expect him to show up for you. He never showed up for me. And so we begin to get this view or this picture of who our fathers are through the people that they've hurt. And that's, I'm not ever downplaying the fact that every relationship that a father or a man has is not always a good one. And so sometimes we call other people for the reference, like, hey, look, what was he like in your life? And we begin to create this story of who the men in our lives are through the stories that they've had with other people. But I think it's a beautiful call out when your mother saw that it was like, you know what? Regardless of what our relationship was,
Yeah.
I want you to focus on the relationship he has with you because I can't teach you to be a man. He
Right.
can, and that's huge. When
Exactly.
in a world where so many people see differently happening or experience differently happening. So
Hmm.
no, just wanted to call that out. That's huge.
Yes, it is. And I mean, like that same year, um, I wanted to go live with him and like for the summer because I was like, man, I like this. I get to be around, men and stuff like that for the first time. Because growing up, I was around females like most of my life, and I'm like, bro, I
Yeah.
gotta be around men. So it's like, I had asked my mom if I could go to live with him for the summer, and she was like, and this is before I found out he was like arrested for stuff and all this, and she was like, you may be mad at me now, but you can't go live with him this summer. And I remember being so mad, bro. Like I went in my room and like broke down in tears because I was like, for the first time, I have this relationship with my father, and I'm trying to build it, but yet like the one person who I feel like is like just the final say so in it is just blocking it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then like 1 or 2 months after that, he got arrested, and I was like, and it was for like some stuff, man, and I was just like, wow, um, and she was like, I was trying to block you from actually getting into that, and but I didn't see that, but she saw that and
Of
was just trying
course.
to protect
Yeah.
me, and it was like growing up, she still wanted me to be around my father, but she didn't want me to fall into anything that he may have been in outside of me as his child. And it was
Mm.
and I didn't understand that. So when he had got arrested, I was confused, man. I was confused. I was angered, and in turn, it made me a more angry person. You know what I mean? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
going to school
So
and
so
stuff.
so
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so let me ask you this,
Yeah.
right where you're at on that anger topic. I know you can recall it or express it as like I was angry in that time, but if you were to go like below the surface of what you saw, what you felt, and how you would have described it to everybody, what maybe what words would you really describe below the surface of what you were feeling, even though it showcased itself as anger?
Disappointment,
Mm, yeah.
resentment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
No,
like,
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I and I think that normally when we write our stories, when we look back, we can see it like shared as like angry. I was
Hmm.
angry. I was
Yeah.
angry. But I think below that, if we were to like name it, anger is what is the expression that's safe as a man to show. But the truth is how do you really show disappointment?
Hmm.
How do you share disappointment? How do you share resentment? And I'll even go one step further and say that mine was abandonment of like, why would you leave me again?
That's real.
Um, yeah, and so uh, it's hard to even crazy thing about it is I don't even think I knew how to say I felt abandoned or I felt disappointed. I felt bitterness and resentment. Like I didn't have that vocabulary to actually express that. So what I did know was that since a baby, I know what anger is. I'm angry. I'm hungry. I need my diaper to be changed, and so that showcases as like anger, like oh he's angry right now. So I think that's an easy expression from us. It's a safe expression, but I think when you know like how you felt below it, it that's where healing begins.
Yeah.
But no, go ahead, jump back in, man. I'm just
Of
I'm just
course.
here, just jumping in your story every once in a while.
I got you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that is where the healing begins, honestly, and even identifying that as something below that is what really got me to where I am now. But after he was incarcerated again, I was angry and confused, and I didn't know what to do. I can vividly remember it feeling like hell, bro. like I went into my room and I cried. Like I didn't know what else to do. My mom had sat me and my sister down, brought us into her room, and was like, "Your dad isn't coming home for a while." I was like, "Why?" And then I looked on the news and I saw my father, and he was up there on the news, and I was like, "Wow." So okay, broke down in tears, cried, and the only thing I knew how to do was pray. I grew up in church, and I knew that was my safe haven. I knew I could call on the Lord at any time, and like even though I wouldn't be able to audibly hear Him, I knew He was there. So I got down on my knees and I just prayed, bro. I was like, God, why is this happening? God, please, like, give me peace during this time, please, just let me know what's happening, because I was so lost at that time. So then,
Yeah.
like, fast forwarding, going weeks into it, I started looking at these Steve Harvey motivational videos. Like, you remember when he had his talk show or whatever?
Yeah.
He would have these little motivational videos on YouTube. And I can remember every single day looking at them over and over and over again. And I remember this one, man. I remember this one where it was like he was talking about his life and what he went through, and he was like at this comedy show, I had one bucket of Popeye's chicken, and that's all I survived off of until I got there, and then bam, God blessed me with meeting all these people, and I was like, wow, like God really working. And then he explained the story further, and then it was another one where he was like the way he got his goals was by a quote in the Bible. It was Habakkuk 2:2, and it said, write your visions down and make it plain so that he who runs to it, you know what I'm saying. And then
Yeah.
even though it may tarry, wait for surely it will come at an appointed time. And that always stayed in my mind constantly. And so, like, I even brought it to college with me. I wrote down pages of stuff that I wanted to do. It was like at the end of the year, check off stuff that you wanted to do and keep praying about it. And I was like, I did that, and it was working. And I was like, okay, I'm finding my voice. And so that same seventh grade year, my principal, Mr. Jamil Thompson, the only black principal I had in middle school, the first one, he just out of nowhere. I've never spoke in my life, never stood in front of a crowd. He's never seen me do this. One day he comes to me. He's like, "Well, somebody I know, it's this police officer in town. They were looking for somebody to speak at Howard University on the importance of voting." And he was like, "I looked at you, and I was like, I got the right person." And he was like, "You." I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Okay." So I go up there. I do my speech, right? I do my speech, and I'm like, it takes months of preparation, months. And I can vividly remember at times breaking down because I wanted this so bad. Like, this is something I hungered for. This is something that I felt like I was really striving to get, or something that I felt like God was leading me towards between the incarceration of my father, watching these Steve Harvey videos, and now this. I felt like God was lining something up, like he had a message for me, but I wasn't quite there yet. And so I started practicing, and I'm putting my all into it. I showed it to my teacher, and she was like, "This is like the best speech that I've heard a student do." So now it's the time to go to Howard University. My knees are shaking like typewriter keys. So for the first time stepping into that room at Howard University, I saw black men in suits. I saw black men my age, and it was motivational. I was like, wow, because this is something I've never seen before. The high school that I come from, our educational system wasn't the best, and education really, like, to be a smart young black man wasn't a thing that people took pride in. People took pride in being in the streets. People took pride in selling drugs. That's what people took pride in. To be smart, you were an outcast. And so I was like, for for that portion, it made me an outcast, and it felt different because I had always blended in. Like, I was always like just one of the other kids. And so this time God was like, okay, I'm gonna put you out here because this is the start to your journey. And I was like, all right, bet.
So
Yeah.
hold on, I got a question.
Hmm.
Had you ever seen success? I'm not talking about like the success of the streets, but have you ever seen the success in the black community where men showed up the way you saw them when you got to Howard?
No, absolutely not.
Mm.
And I was 13 or 14 at that point, and that changed my whole mind. So I get up there for the first time, and you know what I do? I forget the papers that I wrote. And so at this point, I'm just winging it. I'm just up there. Why should I vote? Da 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 da. And then after that, I just forget whatever I'm just saying. My knees shaking. I'm like, okay, all right, bro. And my principal is looking at me like, bro, that is not what you wrote. What is going on? And I was like, all right. And so it was second grade to 12th grade. I was in seventh grade, and I ended up placing third among like the other people. And I come back, and my community is still proud of me because they see me on
Yeah.
stage, and they're like, "We've never seen anybody your age, anybody black doing this before. Like this is not something
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
common, especially coming out of
Yeah.
Cambridge, Maryland. Like this is in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
So.
And I think there's something to that. So know
Mhm.
that as I even listen to that, I think about how like a lot of times we don't know things are possible until we see it.
Yeah.
We don't know there's success outside of the streets until we see it.
Come on.
We don't know that there's more to this outcast feeling of like I'm not accepted because I won't do what everybody else is doing. But when I start to see it or when I experience that there is more, that there's something else, it's like, yo,
Yeah.
okay, wow. And more importantly, I think that a lot of times we base our success on our perfection. Like I practiced this, I got the papers, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna kill it. And I truly believe this, and you know I've learned this personally that there is something to preparation, but at the end of the day, God gets the final say. And I can prepare all day long, but when I give him room to like just speak freely through me, it may not end the way we expect it to be. Like it may not get us in first place, but it gets us the recognition of those who have never seen it done,
Yeah.
because that's what it was all about. It was like, wow, look at that. I didn't even know that I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know that could happen. It's less about the place, it's more about the fact of like, wow, this is something to be proud of. Like I didn't know that there was more than what was outside of the extents of this community we live in. So
Hmm.
no, that's awesome, bro. That's really cool. That's really
For
cool.
real. Yeah, so from that speech, I got third, and I was so mad and sad because I was like, I practiced so many hours, so many months to do this, and I just bombed it. And so, we had a speech at UMES like a month or two later, and I was like, okay, bruh, I may have bombed that one, but I will not bomb this one. And so I just kept practicing, kept practicing, kept practicing. And this time, I made sure that I memorized it so much so to where I didn't have to look at my papers. And so, I recorded it, and I went to UMES. I did my speech, and I got a standing ovation. And it was like the power that truly taught me the power of perseverance, and feeling that I went into that like I did it scared anyways, and it came out better than I could have expected. Like I faced the fear,
Mm,
and the fear was smaller than I thought it was. It was like wow. And so after that, I was like, okay, why don't I try and do this like every day? Like, but why don't I try to do this on a motivational scale for kids in my community who are going through the same things that I'm going through, who don't have fathers,
mm.
who have incarcerated individuals in their lives. And so every day, from the age of 14, I started to create motivational videos online every day, and it was therapy to me at the time, and I didn't even know it. And people were also reaching out to me saying this is inspiring, and I'm talking about older people, younger people. This is inspiring. This is good. This is good. And so I was able to be featured on. It was this local news station called Delmarva News, and then ABC Washington. And the way that I was featured on those was because I was like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. I want to start to get more outreach. I want to touch more people. So I ended up emailing about 200 news stations, like everywhere, and I just put together a little script from a computer my mom got me from the COVID stimulus check, and I was like, all right, bet. And so I got to work on it, and it was great, bro. It was great. And out of those 200, I only got two, but those two gave me the motivation to keep going. And so from
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
and so
Now,
from
no,
there,
okay, so hold
yeah,
on.
mhm,
Let me just ask real quick.
yeah.
Who would you say inspired you to turn around and want to begin to inspire others? Because I think that there's something to even your story of how you
Mhm.
shared who inspired you, like who you begin to watch, and do you feel like that just kind of like said, hey, look, there's something in my story that I could inspire others?
Yeah. Honestly, the first person that comes to mind, because I was a church kid, I grew up in church, was my Uncle John, and he would preach every Sunday about about perseverance, about getting through things, about love, about kindness, about all this type of stuff. And I was like, I want to do something like that. And then I used to watch these Steve Harvey videos every day, so I'm like, bro, this is dope. Like I'm trying to do this. All right, so that's what really contributed to it because I was like, these figures made it out, and now they're able to give back to their community through speeches, bro, and it's making such an
Yeah.
impact that people's lives are changing off of it. That's what, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
who I want
yeah.
to be. Yeah.
And you know what? I think it's I see the importance of like speeches, but I think there is something to a man sharing his story and you watching him share a story of
Mm-hmm.
perseverance, watching him share a story of like dedication. I mean, just even and I've never met your uncle, but like I know based on what you just shared, and then also watching the same Steve Harvey videos, there
Yeah.
was something to hearing those stories of like, yeah, dude, you thought I always had it like this. Like there was a time when I was living in my car, and a lot of us can say, yeah, I was, it's funny, I'm living in mine now, or like, yeah, no, I know what that's like. I don't know where I'm going next. That says, so if you can do it, and more importantly, you're trusting God in it,
Right.
I think there's power in that. Like, because it's not just like, oh, bro, I hustled and grind and I got up out of there. It was like, yo, no, I hit the end of my grind. And that's when I trusted God in my weakness.
Mm-hmm.
And he made me strong. And I think I put it this way, I don't see more of that than I see of the other message of like, bro, what's your hustle like? What's
Yeah.
your grind like? Why is it that you're not grinding like everybody else? Like, you want to get out of here. Sometimes you got to do something you don't want to do to get out of here in order to do what you want to do. And that's the only message we see pumped into our life sometimes of like, what does your hustle look like? And I think there's power when you see somebody who's doing what you'd like to do, who can say, bro, I outside of God, I didn't have any other options.
Right.
So I as you explain all that, I'm like, bro, that's powerful. Like, can everybody else get that class that you got?
Mm-hmm. For
Yeah,
sure.
that's good.
And going back to the part of them showing like that them trusting God in their weakness in their seasons where things weren't so good. That's what stuck out to me the most in everything that everybody was talking about, who I got inspiration from, how they were able to trust God when they didn't see the way, how their predicament, when people looked at it, they would be like, oh, this is a sovereign God who's supposed to lift you up, but yet you're down and you still trust him. I was like, God, give me that. Give me that type of see through. Give me that type of like skin. You know what I mean? And so,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and from then on, this is where like it got a little bit darker. So I started doing these motivational videos, and I'm in ninth grade now, and this is when a lot of shootings and things start to happen in my area. And from these shootings, I mean, I lost so many friends. Like I could count on my hand about five friends who I lost to gun violence. People who I went to school with, like all that, and into the jail system. And during this time, I had never been through anything like this. Literally going to their funerals and seeing them lying in a casket. I've never gone through anything like that, and I don't wish that on my worst enemy because it's like you see this person who you grew up with, and then you see them die by the hands of another human being, and it's like, bro, death is like real, and that honestly, I didn't have a space to talk about that. Again, mental health was never really talked about in
Mm,
my home. We had trauma, we never talked about it, and we moved on. That's all we knew how to do, and that is so embedded in the black community and in black culture that people just think we're violent. No, it's literally a system of embedded trauma going on for generation to generation to generation, and now we're here. We weren't always like this, and we're like this for a reason, not just because we just want to crash out or wild out. It's because our system is broken and it needs to be healed. And so
mm,
from there, that happened, and honestly, I started to get very depressed. I started to get anxious, and I started to become inwardly angered because I was like, why does this have to happen to my friends? Why does this have to happen to me? Why do they have to die? And I started taking that out on people, and it was like it was bad. And so my mom was like, okay, you have to get a therapist. And so this was the first
Was
time.
that something that was, and I'm just curious, just because I was brought up in a completely different time where, you know, that wasn't even something my mom knew to recommend, nor was the community recommending it. But when you see so much death and you don't know how to process or grieve because you're looking at everybody around you, and it's like one day they cry, and then the next day it's like we're back to work as if nothing ever happened. There's no talking about it or anything. Do you feel like your mom offering that or saying, hey, look, you need to probably see a therapist? Do you feel like that was due to her realizing that what it was doing in front of her to her own son, maybe even her daughter, it was causing you guys to turn around and begin to act out again based on the lack of consoling you or being able to console you? Do you feel like that was her seeing something that was lacking there?
Yeah, a lot of times she would just check with me and be like, are you okay? And I would just shrug it off and be like, yeah, whole time I'm like in my room trying to sleep through the day and stuff like that, just so I'm not able
Mm.
to feel. And it was honestly like, it was so many weeks
Sheesh.
and so much time before that where it was like, she thought it was everything else besides therapy. Like that was the very last option. That was when it got bad. Like for example, I had gotten into a fight in school, and it was these kids and they were just like doing stupid stuff, and and it got to a point where I just broke. Like I couldn't stand it no more, and I got into a fight. And so after that, she was like, "Okay, you're not doing well. This just happened." And I was never the type of kid to get into fights at all. And so she was like, "We're going into therapy." And therapy wasn't even easily accessible. It probably took us a couple weeks for me to get into therapy. And even when we found the office, it was so little. And the therapists were like, they were more of psychologists. They were just there to give you medicine and you go. They weren't there so that you were able to talk about your feelings. And I feel like that's what we lack.
Mm.
And I feel like that's what needs to be brought to the surface
Sheesh.
now, is that in these underserved communities that has this violence and has these generations of trauma, this is where therapy is needed the most. This is where these
Yeah.
people who like have these lived experiences and who can actually help these people out professionally, this is where they're needed the most. But yet in those
Yeah.
areas, that's where it's not even accessible. It's not accessible. But I bet you in those suburban areas where like those kids are living good lives, bro, it's way more accessible, and that's the divide. That's the divide, and it's saddening
And I, and, I,
because you know
and
in
I'll say this: what you're saying is so true and so it's not spoke about enough, even down to like us looking over the fence and being like, well, dang, they're living good lives. And the crazy thing about it is as much as I sit here and talk to men regularly, I realize that what I thought and what was the actual truth was the fact that on one side, I recognize that I don't know how to communicate what I'm going through, nor do I have the resources in my community to help me.
yeah.
On the other side, as good as their lives look, they also need the same resources that you're looking for, and they have them easily accessible, but they don't actually use them until they're forced into those spaces.
Yeah.
And so yes, there's more resources over there, but there's still especially in amongst men, there is still a thing of like,
A
I'm a man.
stigma.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
gonna brush it off. I'm gonna keep pushing past that. Like I don't need therapy. It's not even that serious. Like the truth of the matter is this is just a phase. They're going through a phase right now. They're going through this little time. They'll look. We'll look back in a year, and this will be behind us. Let's just keep pushing through. More importantly, I don't want other families to think that there's something wrong with our child. So let's just brush him off. Let's cover it up. Let's throw up a cape and let's act like this never happened. And so we're missing the resources They may have the resources, but they're not using the resources. So,
Right.
and I'm there's no proof to this,
Mhm.
but when you've had resources available for years
Yeah.
and nobody's going to them, one, because they can't afford it and they're not in the area, or two, nobody wants to actually say I need the resources, then the job of like being a counselor, therapist, is almost like looked at almost like maybe being like a trash man, because like nobody really wants to go to them. Like nobody needs them. We don't need that
Yeah.
many. Like you got a bunch of therapists sitting in offices and nobody is sitting in there with them, except for people who have realized how important it is. And so I think that's a great call out of like, yo, like here we are in our communities. Where's the help? More importantly, why is it that we're so quick to like throw things like, well, that's ADHD, or that's just anger management, or that's just like, oh man, these kids are just bad. It'd be better to lock them up than to say, hey, look, let's sit down with a lot of these children and talk to them.
Mhm.
Let's hear their story. I think it's fair that we all say, well, you don't know a man until you know his story, but there's a lack of like, what is your story? What's going on? Like
Yeah.
what's really bothering you? And sitting with that person until they're ready and feel safe to share it. Not sitting there and being like, well, he don't want to talk, so it's cool. We'll just let the street swallow him up. It's like, I don't have a relationship with this person to where they feel safe telling me. If they've never told their parents, why would they tell me? Why would they share what's going on in their life and what they're lacking and what they feel hurt about? As you said earlier, I felt disappointed. Nobody's ever actually cared about my disappointment. So you're going to have to get to know me before I begin to share my disappointment with you.
Yeah.
But first, I have to have the resources.
Come on.
Great
Yes,
call
sir.
out, bro.
Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like coming here was the first time where I felt like I had real therapy. But it's like even when I was exposed to like even just remotely talking to somebody about the way that I felt in that space, it felt like burdens were being lifted off of me. Like because I never communicated or never thought to with somebody else. And so when I'm talking about like how I will wake up in the middle of the night and hear gunshots and this calls me and they're like, oh, this is tied to anxiety, this is tied to insomnia, and I was like, wow, like this is the reason why like mentally I'm like I'm not doing as well as I could be, and just talking to somebody really like it made me remain on the right track. It made me not lose all hope because to be honest, I was losing hope. I was I was I was distancing from that young man who was standing up on that stage at UMES. I was more
Mm,
of coming into my environment, succumbing to my environment, and being a part and a product of it. So
mm.
yeah, and so
Yeah, no, that's real.
I started getting into therapy, started to talk to God more, and I started to get back into motivational speaking. Started doing it every single day. Found my passion again, reignited my fire. And from there, in that same year before, this is now my 11th grade year, I'm making my college decision. And mind you, my two older brothers, they didn't live with me, but I always wanted to know them more, right?
Hmm.
So, the year before I went off to college, which was correction, my 12th grade year, my brother moved in right across from us, and so I started to build more of a bond with him, and I was like, wow, bro, this is cool to have like an older brother. It's like a whole different part of me. I ain't like I ain't really know that much about, and so. He was always there supporting me. I told him I got a radio interview and he was like hyping me up and stuff. And it was like, because he grew up on a totally different side of life than I did. You know what I mean? And so he was like, "Yeah, man, like you gotta make it out of here." And then um, I told him that I had got into the University of Maryland, and it was basically like on a full ride. And he was like, "What?" It was like, "That's what's up. You did it." And I was like, "Yeah, I did it, man." He's like, "Man, I love you. I'm proud of you, and I want you to keep going." And that, man, I carry that in my heart today, because the next day after that, he was fatally shot, and The way that I found out was online on social media. We didn't get a call, nothing. And I was like, Mom, wake up. I think this is my brother. I think this is him. And then we had to ride down and go pick up my sister and my brother, and it was just it was a lot, bro. And it was like that took a toll on me like nothing else. I stopped motivational speaking. I had a clothing line at the time. I stopped doing that. It messed me up, man. And to this day, it's like that still comes in waves because it's like I'm sitting at his funeral, right, and I'm seeing his casket, and it's like I'm removed from my emotions. It's like I'm not feeling anything because I've been in this spot so many times, but this is the first time where it's hit so close to home. And
Mm.
I it's there's no words, man. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be honest. And
Yeah. Do you feel like during that time, and take your time with this,
mhm,
do you feel like during that time it felt like every time you took a step forward and every time you got back on the right path, it felt like something happened in your life that would try to yank you back to the path you visited every once in a while, a path of grief, a path of disappointment, a path of they were just in my life, I just got back with them and now they're gone, which
yeah,
was which seemed like a reoccurring um thing in your life.
mhm. I felt like it followed me. The abandonment followed me. I felt like losing people that followed me, and it was like I felt like everything was telling me to be a part of my environment, to give up, to give in, to not go forward. And from that point on, bro, I didn't know what to do because I was like, I'm getting so many signs, but yet I feel like God is still blessing me. And at this time, I don't know what to do, right? Because it's like now it became more apparent to me that it's like when you're favored by God, the devil is also listening. He's also pulling extra hard at you because you have something that he wants. And that was definitely my testament and my story at that time. So he's honestly
Wow.
my brother is the main reason why I am here today. He's the reason why I didn't give up because of the last words he told me. I'm proud of you, I love you, and I want you to keep going. I love you and I want you to keep going. I'm proud of you. Those words are the reason why I am here today. Those words are the reason why I didn't give up. Because on that same day, I was supposed to come down here to actually take a math placement test to to actually verify me getting into the University of Maryland. But then that halted everything. But through perseverance, through resilience, through optimism, and through those last words that my brother told me, that's the reason why I'm here. And I still carry that with me. And my first freshman year, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a great experience. But honestly, all that trauma that I experienced back at home, being here as a freshman alone, it left me with all that trauma. It left me with everything that I went through. And for the first time, I really realized how messed up mentally I was and how much I had truly been through and had it confronted. So I got a therapist down here, and I had to take it amongst myself because as a freshman, I was like, and just experiencing this in life, nobody's coming to save you. It's like you got to go out and do this on your own. And it's sad that I had to experience this at such a young age, but I had to, and I had to go get a therapist and a psychologist, and I got the help that I needed, and it was just like I'm still going through this, and it comes in waves. It's like at times where I feel like I want to give up. It's times where I feel like I don't belong. It's times where I feel like these people are so much smarter than me, and I belong back at home, like
Right.
becoming another statistic. Like right now, I'm supposed to be dead or in jail. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm really not supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be in a plot, in a grave or in a jail cell. You know what I mean? And so coming here as a freshman, it left me alone with all my trauma, and it really made me realize how important mental health is and how much help I truly needed. And even now, as a sophomore, I still have to confront those feelings, cause it's like, man, I went through so much and I'm still unpacking it. I want to be okay. I want to be okay so bad, but it's like while telling my story, as much as people are healing from it and getting inspired and motivated by it, I am too, because I'm still unpacking it. I'm still learning.
There's still a lot of pain there, bro.
There's still,
I
yes, a lot, so much.
and I yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, man. I didn't um wow, that got to me, bro. Wow. Yeah, it's almost like I just gotta let that breathe for a second. I resonate with that a lot, in that I never knew that what God had put inside of me was the same thing that our enemy was going to continue to fight and try to steal from us.
Yeah.
And there was no play fair. There was no okay, that's off limits. Like, my family's off limits. And there were many moments where I was so far removed from who God created me to be, who God created you to be,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know how to even get back there. Like, the fact that you had moments where you were inspired to get back on the path.
Mm-hmm.
There were points where I felt like if I got back on that path, all that I was experiencing and how I felt would just continue to rain on me. And so I made a deal that, you know what, if I stay off this path, if I can just live a quiet life, if people will just leave me alone, if I can just get through this and just stay numb and just stay uh um almost stay separated from my feelings, like I won't feel anymore. I won't allow anybody to be able to hurt me again, then maybe I'll survive.
I'm not gonna lie.
And
I'm going through that same feeling right now. Like, still, it's like this feeling of, being an outcast and God giving you this gift. That's cool. But do we ever talk about the other side of that? About the rain, about the things that come with it, about the attacks of the devil and just the attacks of life as well that come with it. And about how sometimes you just want to be totally removed. You just want to be normal. You want to live a normal life. You want to have the things that other people have, and it just feels like you're encompassed in this life that you didn't ask for, but one that you also can't escape. You know what I mean? And it's like there's almost two sides of destiny. There's a side of the things that follow you, and there's a side of the things that you're destined for. And that's the part that
yeah,
messes you up.
yeah, you're right. So you're right. Walking in purpose, walking according to the design we were designed for. A lot of people make it look like if you can just stay on this road, everything's going to be okay, and you'll be able to sit on TV one day and like be like, man, perseverance, and I stuck to it, and I
Mm-hmm.
trusted God, and um, it's not talked about enough that, like, trusting God isn't always pretty, because you got to trust him sometimes through tears. You got to trust him sometimes through sitting back and just breathing and
Mm-hmm.
like saying, what the heck is happening right now? Like you told me, if I trust you and I submit to what you want to do, that it would be for my good. And
Like, how is this for my good though? When those bad
this
things
isn't
happen,
this isn't good right
you
now.
know what I
This
mean?
isn't good. This isn't good. I'd like to give credit to my pastor. I remember him saying one time that if it's not good yet, then God's not done yet. And I sat with that of like, he can't be done yet then, because where I sit right now is it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel safe. I almost have this thing of like, I don't want anybody to get any closer to me, because everybody that gets close to me, I lose.
Yeah.
Every time I want to be in somebody's life and I start to like build this relationship, they leave my life. And so I pray that this never happens to you, but like, what I end up doing was I end up keeping everybody at arm's distance. Like I allowed love to get so close, and I gave myself just enough before I was like, no, because the second I begin to truly give my heart fully over, before I truly begin to love, regardless of what this could look like, you'll be taken from me too. Something will happen to you. And I don't want that. I can't take that anymore. So my survival is now dependent on me controlling it all, controlling who gets close to me, how much I let them in. And that voice in our heads begins to tell us that like, it's just another person who's going to let you down and leave you, who's going to disappoint you, who's going to speak life over you and be so proud of what you're doing, who's going to impart certain things on your life.
Sure.
And just when you're really like in this space of vulnerability where you're just, you just freely feel your full self around them, they're stripped from your life. And I can look back at this point in my life now and say it's a lie. It's a lie that we begin to believe that like everybody will disappoint you. Everybody will leave you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will be stripped from your life, and that will be just your story. And if you keep going, if you keep striving, if you keep moving forward, your story will be, yeah, he was successful, but everybody in his life is no longer there. And I'll tell you, I'll impart this on you, that like, we can't control who comes and goes, but we can control what God has for us and what he's going to do, and know that it's going to be for your good. It's going to be, you know, it's not about success, this worldly success they sell you. It's about the fact that God has something he's not finished yet in your story. And I don't, you know, I know how things look, even how you feel right now, but I recognize that like, I was right there. Maybe a couple tweaks to the story, maybe a couple people put in there, but I was there. And I didn't have anybody to tell me like, hey, look, know that just as much as we're called to be like Christ, we're also called to suffer like Christ.
Yeah.
And suffering is a part of this bigger picture of what God's going to continue to do in our stories. Even when it feels like, bro, like, I'm tired, boss. I'm smiling for you guys. I'm standing up here and I'm walking according to what God put in me and in the gifts he gave me. And I'm tired, boss. Like I don't know what to do with this pain that I'm carrying around and that I'm speaking from. What you guys don't know is I speak with a smile and I speak through a story, but there's still pain there that I carry, that I speak through.
So real.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, bro. I appreciate you bringing me to that space. I appreciate you appreciate you pulling them tears out of me, because I'm what, probably 20 years ahead of you, and I would like to tell you, oh, it gets better, bro. But I have had to learn to suffer well just as much as I've had to experience and sit in all the great things God has done through me just in the past few years, bro. just astonishing things that like like I couldn't begin to tell you like that was gonna happen, and it was like, bro, I can't make this stuff up. And I'm going through things sometimes where it's like, bro, I don't even know where to begin to tell you like what this feels like behind this smile and this story that's encouraging you guys, that's inspiring you guys, because inspiration, motivation, they come from a lot of pain. And that doesn't mean the pain is past. Sometimes that pain is what's, as I said, it's what's fueling these conversations. It's what's fueling those moments where you're standing in front of people and you're just sharing a part of your story. You're sharing what it looks like on the other side, that there's something else outside of just what you guys feel like is offered here in this community. There's more to this.
Mhm.
But it comes sometimes from the fact of like, yeah, I had to trust God. I had to surrender to what God wanted to do, and that came with a lot of suffering. That came with a lot of pain that I'm
Yeah.
still processing through.
And
So I want to tell you, first of all, I want to stop here and just say I'm proud of you, man. I'm
thank you.
proud of you for keep going. I'm proud of you for saying that there were moments where you could have just said, bro, I'm done with this, man. Like this is too much. I've seen too much. I've felt too much. I'm tired. I appreciate you. I appreciate you saying yes to coming on here and joining me. I appreciate you just continuing to go, bro. And
Of
it's not
course.
me like ending this conversation. It's just I had to stop, and I just felt like I needed to say that at this moment because I I know how I feel right now, even by you saying the things you said. And I'm like, sheesh, that's real. But
Yeah,
go
of
ahead, bro.
course. And I was just sitting here thinking, and I was like, well, first, the one thing that kept me again from the streets and not being in the streets were mentors. Like after I did my speech at UMES, those same people from Alpha Phi Alpha, they literally took me under their wing and they mentored me, and it was like my mom didn't always have the money to necessarily give me everything that I needed for school because she was a single mom and she was working, trying to provide, put food on our table, clothes on our back, like all that, a roof over our head. And so they literally came in and would like give me like crates full of school supplies. I mean, I had more than I could have use for. And so it was just like they also inspired me. And it was seeing these black men who were older than me pouring back into me and not forgetting
Yeah,
about me. You know, I think
yeah.
that's the reason why like OGs in these communities are so important because they have the wisdom. They've been through the things that these younger people are going through. And even like my teachers, I had one black male teacher in middle school, the only one I can remember, and he was young, and that even like put new things into perspective, into a new light, because it's like he was unashamed to be black and educated in a space where
Mm,
it wasn't valued. And
yeah.
even in high school, I took this teacher's a, academy for some college courses, college credits, and it was um it was my mentor now. He's also Alpha, but his name is Dr. Warren, and he was literally talking about how young black kids don't become what they hear or what you tell them to. They become what they see, and I think that's so much of the reason why like
Mm,
the community
come
is the
on.
way that it is now, because we become what we see. When we see them positive examples over and over again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
we become. But when we see those
yeah.
examples, that's also what we become. The only reason
Come
why
on.
I was saved is because I was still in that learning stage of becoming who I am today, and I'm still evolving. So, you know, those people are so vital. Having those people who will uplift you, who will surround you with positivity, who will surround you and just speak life into you. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
literally
yeah,
people telling me things that I will do amazing things. It gave me a sense of purpose that I wasn't just here for nothing, you know?
yeah, yeah.
And
Love that.
yeah, even here I met a teacher who went out of his way to make sure that I was in class to check upon me and stuff. I found out he's an alpha. So when I think of even alphas, and I'm just giving a shout out to them because it's like they don't embody alpha, they just embody being a good person, bro. Like just being a
Yeah.
caring person. And this was also a black male at the University of Maryland. So it's like, man, I mean, the importance of role models and mentors are so important that
Yeah.
it's it honestly deserves it the applause that it gets. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie, you know. So
Facts. No, for sure. And yeah, bro, I appreciate you shouting that out because I don't think that's spoken enough of the importance of finding good role models, good mentors,
mm,
and that being the community that you begin to build as you grow on this journey, bro.
yeah,
And I'm look, it's my honor to even be able to like continue to like sit down with you and do life with you. I'm not an
thank you.
alpha, but hey,
You know what I
look,
mean? Still my mentor. You know what I mean? It's good. It's all good.
just shout out to any brother because I think it's bigger than like these organizations we're in. I think it's a
Yeah.
heart posture. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a man's heart posture to say, that's me.
Yeah.
And so let me be the big brother. Let me be the father figure in that young man's life that I needed when I was coming through through the place he's walking through now.
Yeah.
And I think the importance of even this community is that I love to see brothers, step up. I love to see anybody like continue to do what God has called them to do. But I recognize that sometimes there's not enough people that are behind you that are not just providing you everything, but also praying for what God has for you and that He continues to strengthen you on this journey. Because as we both just discussed, this journey, it's not easy.
Yeah. Nah.
It's not easy, and like you said, there's not enough people talking about the things that make it hard. I truly see a light in your life to not just light the way for God, lighting the way for where you're going, but also the light that He's going to shine through your life,
Thank
through
you.
what you're doing, through the opportunities and the doors that will open. You can go and do the same thing that your teachers and your role models did for you and somebody else's life that's coming up behind you. Even for the lives that are ahead of you that are just inspired by this conversation today and are like, yes,
Yeah.
bro, just fully awoken me. Like, yes.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to just say thank you, man. I felt like I was talking to me for a second there.
I was gonna ask you that question. If you could speak to your 19-year-old self right now, what would you tell them?
I would tell him everything you just told me that yes, you're going to go through a rough time. This is not going to be easy. You're going to feel unsafe. You're going to feel like giving in and doing what everybody around you tells you to do and is doing. And that is not your story. That's not your road. Just because that road is wide and everybody is taking it doesn't mean that it's your road to take. Your road is the road you continue to feel called to. It's the road that you continue to be put on and then taken off of. But don't lose track of the road that God has carved out for you to take, knowing that there's going to be pitfalls, knowing that there's going to be moments where you're just like, why is this happening to me? But know that if it's not good yet, then God's not done yet.
That's
He's
right.
got a road for you. He's got a plan for you. And more importantly, it took me till I was in my 40s to hear this or even tell myself and agree with this that I'm proud of you. Meaning, like, I can talk to myself and say to my younger self, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I love you. And I appreciate what you're going to do and what God's going to do through your life, even though you don't even know it yet. You don't even see it. You have no idea all that He has in store. But just that simple fact of like, keep going, like your brother said, keep going. It's gonna get hard. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's gonna be scary. Keep going. Do it scared. Do it scared, bro. That's one thing God kept telling me at one time. I get it. It's scary. Do it scared.
And it's like even sometimes when you do it scared, it's like you're turned around and you hear this big growling behind you. But then when you turn around, it's like a little mouse. It's like, but when you do it scared, that's when the greatest results come and you realize it wasn't even as big as you thought it was. That's the main
Yeah.
thing that God has taught me this year. I'm not gonna lie. Like even going to that conference, I was like, it's the first time I'm out on my own. You know what I mean? I'm in this room with people who I don't know. This ends up happening, that ends up happening, and it's like when I do it scared, God blesses. When I do it scared, God takes the wheel because He has ordained the steps that I am already taking.
Come on.
You know what I mean?
Come on, man. Yeah, I appreciate your time today. I appreciate the detail. I appreciate you just sharing your story and allowing it to speak to so many people's hearts and souls, and the hurt that's even there for some people who are like, I've given up. And I'm not gonna hold you too much again, bro. But before you get out of here, though,
I got you.
Shoot your details for everybody, bro. How can people connect with you? How can they reach out to you? How can they follow you? How can they bring you in and let you share your story with others who need to hear it?
So I am currently doing motivational content, mental health advocacy, equipping youth in low-income communities on Instagram at I am Rip Cornish, IAMRIPCORNISH. I also have a clothing brand, and we will be releasing all new stuff next month. This is a shirt right here. So if you want to support a brand that embodies you, that embodies your courage, that embodies your past, present, and future, and how good your walk with God will be in the future, and just is a testament to your faith. It embodies anybody who wears it, because all of our stories are uniquely tailored, and this brand is uniquely tailored to you. So we want this brand to not just be a brand. We want it to be a movement. We want it to be a tale of your faith, of your story, and of the unique tenacity that you have had in it. So support me on I am Rip Cornish and my brand Sustained Faith. And that's
what's your email? You can email?
Yes, my email and where you can contact me at is rcornish@terpmail.com, rcornish@terpmail.umd.edu. That's
awesome. Well, bro, thank you again, man. Thank you for coming today. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for just being a light in my life right now, man. Just to realize that this generation behind us, bro, they've got a lot. I'm excited about what's in store for your life, bro. I'm excited about walking with you, man, and just seeing what God has in store, man. So thank you again. Thank you to all my listeners for listening today, man. This was fire, bro. Love you guys. Y'all be blessed. We'll catch you on the next episode, and just continue to support us, man. We're excited you continue to come and listen and just enjoy great conversations like this one. Yeah. Rip, thanks. Everybody, thank you. Love you guys. We'll talk to you again soon.
Peace.
And that wraps up another episode of God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm Justin Moore, and we want to give a huge thank you to all of you for tuning in and being part of our community. Your support means the world to us, and we hope you enjoyed today's conversation as much as we did. If what you heard resonated with you, please consider subscribing and leaving a review on today's video. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to connect with us on social media at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories for updates, new episode clips, and to share your thoughts on today's episode. We love hearing from you. If this conversation happened to shed a light on past experiences of yours that may have been happy moments or maybe hurtful moments, feel free to keep the conversation going in the comments below, so as a community we can listen, pray with you, or point you to helpful resources. Join us next time for another great episode, and until then, let's give God the glory for all He's doing in our stories.